Thanks for staying with us. This is Daybreak, and your company here is appreciated. On my far right, Javas Bigambo, also in his company, Robert Mbui, in their company, Dr. Barak Muluka, and also in our company is Mark Nyamita, the lawmaker representing Urire constituency. Many thanks, gentlemen, for your time. Dr. Barak, I was on you before we had embarked on the break. But ideally, when you look at the recent sentiments politically, the comparisons with Singapore under Lee Kuan Yew, who today in the current political class, by any chance, exhibits the same integrity as was the former Prime Minister?
First, I think it's important to note that they are in my company rather than me being in their company. But that said and done, let us not narrow down to the extent that we are shining our torches on the individuals that we have within the political arena today, because we don't know what it's going to be like 2 years down the line. In fact, I have often had us wondering as Kenyans whether the political opposition that is called the United Opposition is going to hold together up to 2027, and who among them is going to be the flag bearer. It is kind of precipitate. If they should show up, whoever it is, Mheshimiwa Robert Mbui, I can assure you that he or she will be a sitting duck. So just carry on the way you are doing, and eventually other forces will arrive. Lee Kuan Yew arrived from the United Kingdom, where he had undertaken his undergrad studies, to discover Singapore in a state of wretchedness, where in fact the Malay were marginalizing the Singaporeans, and with a solitary spirit of focus, vision, and determination, he was able to do things that you have not seen anybody on the national political landscape so far embracing. That you cannot be talking about making this country a first world nation, while at the same time there is corruption surrounding you. You are ringed up with corruption. That when you are constituting government, the first thing you are doing is giving a fresh lease of life to people who are within the court corridors, that they have arrived there as suspected delinquents, my nephew, and that you have got what is basically a felonious state, whose central philosophy is the enrichment of individuals. It's a neo-patrimonial state, a prebendalist state, where some of the benefits of being in power is about obtaining tenders in a fraudulent manner, in opaque manners. We have seen that the Adani thing is coming back to haunt us. We have seen the communication that has been made to their peers in charge of the energy sector. We cannot possibly be talking about a first world country without the essential integrity. And when we shine the torch, particularly, we have got to shine that searchlight within the ruling space. The political opposition is just a possible alternative, which we shall interrogate in the fullness of time. But for now, the entity that has got to be audited is the entity that is holding the reins of power. It's an entity that came up with a plan. They called it a plan. And we are not seeing the things that they said in that plan being done. We are seeing new experiments every day. The empowerment thing that we have been seeing these past 6 or so months is a bomb from a blast from the blues. It does not tally in with any of the 47 charters, county charters that the Kenya Kwanza government, when it was on the campaign trail, signed with the counties saying this is our program for Kakamega County, this is our program, this is our plan for Isiolo County. We are not seeing any of those. We are not seeing any focus on the 5 pillars that they talked about, be it agriculture, be it health, which has failed, be it in the housing sector. None of these things is following the letter and the spirit that was enunciated in the big plan and in the 47 charters. Instead, government is a gravy train. You cannot run a gravy train regime no matter how many people you invite to join you in the bandwagon around the dining table and throw crumbs at the citizenry. Finally, Mheshimiwa Nyamita here is a very learned person whom I respect very much, as well as my up-and-coming nephew, son of my sister, who took our eloquence but left behind the substance. We invite him to come back for the substance so that the package is complete. They understand very well that there is a productive economy. Ours, we are building a consumer economy, and what we are doing is we are recycling poverty within the same space. It's not going to be until such a time that we start attracting wealth, not borrowing from overseas, that we are a productive economy, that when we talk about generation of wealth, we talk about creation of jobs. Job creation goes in tandem with wealth generation, and wealth generation is going to happen only when we are interacting with the external world, being able to draw in resources that come not as borrowings, but as earnings.
Okay, and that is what Lee worked on. I'll come to Javas. But Honorable Mark Nyamita, then of how much, looking at some of the issues that were pointed out and getting to our country and the comparisons that were made and the fascinations in that regard, because Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, the late Prime Minister, has kept government small, the economy open, and regulation simple, transparent, and effective. Civil servants, ministers were one of the highest paid in the world. He was a man of integrity. He had appreciated social order, which was part of the attraction of big investments that Dr. Barak talked about. Despite the ethnic makeup of Chinese majority, but sizable Malay as well. But do we appreciate all these factors, and who has the moral authority today exhibit and possesses all this?
Thank you very much. You know, Ayub, there is normally a quote that if your dreams do not scare you, possibly you need to go back to bed. And as a nation, our dreams must scare us, even individually. If you don't have a higher ideal, a higher goal that you want to actually attain, you will actually just settle for mediocrity. Now, you asked that question to Barak Muluka, who challenges my good friend. You know, the two of them are very good with a lot of English. Who challenges my other friend that he left substance when he has not displayed any substance at all himself. Because you asked Barak Muluka of the current crop of leaders, who comes close, instead of just simply saying in his own view, sitting from his corner, that even from the people that he purports to represent, or the people he associates with, including himself. He doesn't see himself close to it. He went round and round and round without really delivering substance. So let's think about Lee Kuan Yew as a leader who now maybe globally people now are trying to benchmark, and because they started at the same time, Kenya and Singapore for that particular matter. What are some of the critical things? One, public housing. Of all the crop of leaders that we've had in the nation, the only one who has made a substantial attempt at trying to resolve the housing crisis, even if you ask a class 2, they will tell you it's William Ruto. Despite the criticism, the protests, and all those other things, he has said this is happening. And let me tell you, today you go into each and every other town, you're seeing that actually coming up. The other thing that Lee Kuan Yew was known for is healthcare, when he did something about the healthcare. Again, the same question, I'm just trying to answer your question. And my good friend Barak is a professor. He knows that when you're asked a particular question, you go straight to the point. You don't cut around, you go straight. Housing, healthcare. Housing, healthcare. So healthcare, of all our crop of leaders, who has attempted success? There could be one or two issues here that are raised, but who has actually made a bold attempt that to have Kenyans being in an all-inclusive healthcare system, whereby every single Kenyan now can access healthcare? The answer is William Ruto. Okay. Because today we moved from NHIF of about less than 10 million to now close to 30 million people registering. I'm reading on this paper, county governments, I've seen the county government of Kiambu now has actually put up a paid advert, half a page, to tell people that we are now registering people across. It's here in this paper today. Meaning, if it was not working, as they say, why would a county government in Kiambu spend money to pay half a page to tell its citizens to go around doing registration? So that is housing, healthcare. Education system. Now, in the transition to this particular government, there was the introduction of the CBC now that has been turned into CBE. I must say that the new education system is not a creation of William Ruto. It was a creation of the old regime. And what William Ruto has actually tried to do is to try and just make it work for all intents and purposes, by recruitment of teachers, by the construction of thousands of classrooms within a very short time. Now, the third thing is what you talk about, institutional reforms. The fourth. Yeah, the fourth thing. We're talking about institutional reforms, issues of corruption, like you're saying the civil servants on the other side were the highly paid. Because then it was, and actually that's the way it's supposed to be. But let's also be fair. But Honorable Mark, you have outlined 4 items. I was just about to land on the last one. Finish up here. That in this particular nation, the fight against corruption as a singular item is a full-time agenda. You cannot, if you were to fight it 100%, because even all these criticisms about new initiatives the government is actually doing, is actually the people who are fighting back are actually the cartels around each and every other sector. So fighting corruption in itself, and when a government comes into place, sometimes you have to make that decision. So it's not going to be a one-day thing. The president has only been there for about 3 years now. Okay. It's going to be about even the 5 years. I can tell you that even the 10 years cannot resolve the problems that we have had for the last 60 years. And so you have itemized but the ambition, and I think when the president in each and every other speech keeps on saying that, we want to be a first world in our lifetime, he is acknowledging that he's not going to achieve this in the next 10 years, but he's trying to make the country, in your own way, even from where you sit, Ayub, from where I sit, do I want to experience a first world country in my lifetime? What is it that he's actually challenging us. So the point is then, this is my question before I go to Honorable Robert Mbui. Yes. Then the comparisons here still, but Lee Kuan Yew, Honorable Mark Nyamita, had no love for awarding incompetence. He based it on merit. It's not happening here. So the president is not a break from the past. He's just a representation of perpetual continuity
of the problems that he appreciates?
Give me an example of the reward for incompetence.
For instance, he appointed his cabinet in 2022.
Yes.
A year later, he came out and said, you guys are incompetent.
Absolutely, because you see, the thing is this. Let me tell you, even the vetting...
Why did he award him?
No. The thing is this. The fabric and the true nature of this nation is one. When now, even now, as people are going, holding themselves into groups to form coalitions and groupings into capturing power, then the tradition has been that, I have to get someone from a particular region here and there. And I think it is even very bold of the president.
No, if that then is the tradition, why not break that hoodoo? You are granted the opportunity to be the appointing authority to come up with competent cabinet that will help you deliver on your manifesto. And why then decry the same people you appointed?
The appointment is based on what actually is presented. And the appointment of cabinet secretaries is not only left for the president itself. It's a function of the presidency. The executive is a function of the National Assembly, where I also sit. So what actually happens, my good friend Barak Muluka also served, not in the cabinet, but he was part of that team. I remember he was working in the Ministry of ICT at that particular time. He will present his good CV. I'm not talking about him particularly. He will present his good CV. I have Mayub, I have worked in royal media, I've done all these things. I can be a minister for ICT and things like that. It is based on paper. The president is, okay, fine. We have to have regional inclusivity. The gentleman from Ukambani, we have taken Robert Mbui, Mark Nyamita, sent it to Parliament. Parliament also does the exact vetting and goes through.
And you, the opposition, said, let's give the president his skunk.
No, just listen. Then these people are appointed. If the president realizes, even a day later, that the person then that I appointed is not fit for the office, I think it is very bold of the president, and for any leader for that matter, to acknowledge that, yes, these particular guys that I actually gave, even in corporate, I have a background in corporate. We have hired people with the best of CVs. And when they come, you give them the job, because the true taste of the food is in the eating. So when the people fail, I think it is very bold of the president to actually say, no, the gentlemen that you actually have given me are not. And he dissolves it and sets up the new cabinet. And it is a continuous thing. Even tomorrow, Ayub, if he realizes that a few people in his cabinet are unable to run at the speed at which he wants, and he says, no, these people are not running as fast as I can, these people are still, cut from the old cloth, it's still okay. So it's progressive.
Okay. So
it's actually bold. So what I'm trying to talk about,
yes,
of all the things that Lee Kuan Yew, the former Prime Minister for Singapore, did, what beyond the individual initiatives is a boldness of facing things head on.
Okay, he was geostrategist and also blunt speaking. We'll come to that. Allow me to go to Honorable Robert Mbui, because you told the president at the time, let's hand over him his skunk, because the majority party also raised concerns about a biological process one of the nominee at the time was undergoing. Yes, Honorable Robert Mbui, ideally then, where should this take us, given all these flashy comparisons that we make by the political class, but the stagnation thereafter once any party assumes power?
First, Ayub, let me say that one of the problems we are facing as a country is a trust deficit. And, there's a lot of deceit in the political space. Listening to my two colleagues here, Javas Bigambo and Mark Nyamita, I wish you could rewind time about 12 months ago. They were also regulars in this show. And everything they said was diametrically opposite what they are saying today. I mean, the reality is that what surprises me is how come William Ruto about a year ago was a demon, and now suddenly he's got the Midas touch, and everything he touches turns to gold. There's too much political deceit. That's what the problem is, the country is suffering from, and we need some honesty. We need leaders that can tell us the truth. I mean, look at the political space. When the president was campaigning, he talked about how he's going to change the lives of Kenyans. The first thing he did was actually, really burden Kenyans institutions with a very heavy, tax regime, which up to now is part of the reason why we are saying he has to go. But I want to remind you about the one thing that he told us as Kenyans about when he was trying to look for votes in the last election. And he talked to us about, the split between the dynasties and the hustlers. I mean, the president told us that, the people that were on the side of Azimio were the dynasties. We are talking about Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, whose father was president. He was currently serving as president. Raila Amolo Odinga, whose father had been vice president and he had been prime minister. Gideon Moi, whose father had been president. And he told us that that is a team that we must avoid, And then today, those are the people that he's saying he's forming government with. Those are the people that he's courting. So I think that what we require as a country is honesty. Now, if you're looking for a honest leader, because you've said, what kind of leader do we require that can move this country forward? I would propose my party leader, His Excellency Dr. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. An honest person, and let me tell you, one of the things that would take Kenya out of the doldrums is the fight against corruption. This is a leader that has been a member of parliament for, I think, 5 terms. He's been a minister, he's been assistant minister, he's been speaker, he's been vice president of the republic. But if you look at his track record in terms of corruption, the only allegation that he had in terms of corruption was something to do with the land, his land in Yatta. And this is the only person who went to DCI and told DCI, I'm tired of this conversation. Why don't you confirm the authenticity of the ownership of this land? Because he says he bought that land. But we have leaders of dubious credentials, people who have been accused of corruption, and they are now midwifing the process of ending corruption in the country. I think that's where that's a problem we are facing as a country.
But Honorable Robert Mbui, the fear, as also Dr. Barak expressed, is the political DNA of all the representatives of the political arena today, including your party leader and the opposition outfit he subscribes to. What then is cogent that he may or will present that will make Kenya wealthy, make us organized society that respects the rule of law and adheres to the principles of good governance and ends this problematic award of incompetence at the expense of political expediency that we constantly see? I
mean, 2 things. One, when he was vice president, that was the time Kenya's GDP was growing by leaps and bounds. I mean, he did demonstrate that under the leadership of Kibaki, the country was stabilized and we were able to do better economically. And secondly, I've just said, he's an honest person, and he's a kind of person that has, no skeletons in the closet. That is where the problem is. We have leaders that get into office and the intention is to line their pockets. And that's why we end up where we are. The gentleman you referred to from Singapore, that was his DNA. He was not there to line his pockets. And that's why the country grew. In Kenya, most of our leaders are interested in lining their pockets and retaining power at all costs. And so for me, I think we require honesty. We require people that are not greedy. And maybe that way we'll begin the healing process.
Okay. Yes, Javas.
Well, I would agree with the Honorable Mbui that Honorable Musyoka does not have any skeletons in his closet because he himself is a skeleton. Because since 1985 April, when he joined politics up to now, he has incubated no new ideas for which somebody can say that if chance grants him the opportunity to serve as president, then there is he's a shining star that will lead Kenya into the new season of development and progress. And I think that is what we need to appreciate. Look, development by its nature and progress is a function of the convergence of communities of interest. And that is what His Excellency President William Ruto is speaking to. He's saying that he's desirous of Kenya being a first world country, not because by his own energy, effort, and might he will make Kenya as such, but that if private sector, government, individuals, civil society, development partners, all of us, academicians like my relative Dr. Muluka, come together in that convergence, then Kenya can move forward when we say that really, if we have all our hands on deck, then each of us doing our best, Kenya can and will move forward. Look at it this way. I have decried the issue of lack of constructive alternative ideas from the so-called united opposition. And that's why you can see that the so-called united opposition and their leaders are hovering like evil spirits in corners of the country without giving any critical ideas or challenging even particular ideas by President William Ruto, and saying that if chance is placed upon their laps, then this is the progressive alternative that they will issue. My substance, my DNA of substance, the deoxyribonucleic acid, descends from my very own relative, Dr. Muluka, and I've sat at the footstool of his thinking just the same way Paul of Tarsus sat at the footstool of Timothy. Timothy sat at the footstool of Paul of Tarsus. And here in this shared thinking that we have, in this very critical and progressive debate we are having, we are saying there is no way any logical person can sit and tell the world that everything President William Ruto is doing is bad. Look, what is so wrong about coming up with a team to fight graft when he puts together all the various agencies, the multi-agency team, which has now been stopped by the courts, to fight corruption? He is actually tracing the footsteps of Lee Kuan Yew, as Lee Kuan Yew has documented in his 3,000-page book, From Third World to First World, that corruption itself is carcinogenic to development and progress. Second, when President William Ruto is speaking to inclusion and saying that, look, we cannot forever have a country where certain communities are relegated to the backwaters, some are considered as unhelpful on the table of progress, ideas, and development, what's wrong with inclusion? Today, we are having a cabinet and even principal secretaries drawn from all parts of the country. It is Honorable Mbui's party leader who just a few days ago said that he cannot join President William Ruto at any day because he does not want to give chance for Kikuyus again to be punished politically. Kikuyus to be punished politically. I mean, really, in the 21st century, we are still being hoodwinked by the politics of tribes and tribalism.
But how comes the president has a cabinet that is made up by one community that has more representatives than the others?
Well, look, first of all, executive authority derives from the people of Kenya. And it's vested in the office of the president. Mm-hmm. And the president has got the prerogative to determine who sits in cabinet. And by so doing, he looks for competence amongst Kenyans, inclusion. He looks for shared vision and thought leadership. And when that opportunity is bestowed upon someone and somebody fails, it's still the prerogative of the president, as Honorable Nyamita said, to have that person replaced by way of the authority vested in the appointing authority, because they serve at the pleasure of the appointing authority. The thing is this.
But you haven't still responded to my question, Javas.
And I'm getting to it. The thing is this.
For instance, do we have an Ogiek cabinet secretary?
Well, we have 42, actually 43 communities. Yeah. And the 43rd, I think, was gazetted being Kenyans of Indian origin. Yeah. We cannot have 43 cabinet secretaries. Yeah. So it is impossible that we can have...
But we have more than 8 cabinet secretaries.
And remember where they normally commenced. Yeah. And that is, in fact, the danger that even Honorable Musyoka should be wary of. It is Gachagua who said that, at his insistence, there must be close to 7 cabinet secretaries from Mount Kenya. Now, we know the appointing authority is the president. Yeah. The thing is this. President William Ruto has said he's a listening president, and he has demonstrated times without number. The thing is this, Father.
But his democratic credentials are questioned here.
In the recent times.
Because Gachagua has been blunt, saying he negotiated for at least 7 portfolios. And by virtue of overlooking a democratic process on the 15th May 2022, doesn't the president erode back on democracy itself when his lawmakers who supported him at the time had elected Professor Kithure Kindiki as the running mate, but he chose Gachagua over him? So he is a creation of Gachagua himself, is it?
I am quite shy to make reference to Gachagua because he is a rabble-rousing knight of doom who brings and speaks to nothing about national unity, progress, and even most recently, we have seen him referring to governors Waiguru and Marire in very derogatory terms, which actually means that he does not respect women in this country. Secondly, I would say that we need to have leaders that care about their language, care about gender, care about other communities. Rigathi Gachagua has never talked about inclusion. And in fact, about 3.5 weeks ago, at a function of ordination in Ukambani, he said that if anybody wants to speak to Kalonzo Musyoka, President William Ruto should speak to him, which means that Kalonzo Musyoka already is a poodle to Gachagua. Gachagua himself, Kalonzo Musyoka, should be very worried that if at all FET in any future times would have him occupy such kind of office, which is highly unlikely, then he would be on a short leash of Gachagua. But as a matter of fact, look at a country such as the United States, with 54, with all the states that are there. We cannot have everybody coming from each particular state, but merit, competence should be the reason why somebody occupies any particular office.
Okay. Yes, Dr. Marak.
Thank you once again. I'm listening to the king of beating about the bush. He's the captain of circumlocution, and with his competent deputy at the other end. They say, let's address the question of the numbers. There are 54, he says. It is true that we cannot have all the communities within the cabinet. But the question is evaded all the time. Why do we have 8 from one community? Demonstrate at least by having 22 communities represented in the cabinet. So the cabinet is about a different agenda from the agendas that cabinets are constituted for. I've stated before that this is a new patrimonial state. A new patrimonialism is basically about using the resources of the state and the opportunities that are there to reward fellows who are going to be loyal to you and not loyal necessarily to the nation. This is loyalty about externalizing of resources from public coffers into private pockets. There are things which the two gentlemen in the flanks are beating about the bush boil down to just one thing: corruption. Or put more starkly, theft. Theft in government. That the government becomes about greed, it becomes about feeding individual appetites, it becomes about building a circle around the head of state, it becomes about budgeting for things that provide opportunity for that kind of plunder, and for looking for all manner of shadowy projects and programs that pave the way to stealing. This government told us 3 years ago to give it 2 years, within which period it would have paid all the debts, all the public debts. We would be standing at 0 shillings in terms of borrowing, both domestic and foreign, and that we would then start seeing the country rolling towards the dream that the two gentlemen talk about of being the new Singapore in Africa. The evidence available indicates that, in fact, borrowing has now reached an all-point high. We have never been there before. We have seen attempts here to distort history, to tell us about how we do so well in housing, that it has never been done before, how we do so well in health, that it has never been done before. I think we seem to hear my good friends who speak through knowledge gaps. They are unaware, for example, that we had the National Housing Corporation in this country. It was making housing affordable. People built houses, others bought houses. Some found plots and they built houses. We had the East African Building Society, all of which were state-funded or partly state-owned. And they did quite well. The City Council of Nairobi was building houses that people afforded to live in. You just need to look at Madaraka around here and what they have done with it. You need to look at Mariakani. You need to look at California. You need to look at Kariako, where Governor Sakaja is now harassing people. You need to look at Woodley, which they have in recent times ejected people from, and you can see that it worked. That when I was growing up in this town, Javas, my nephew, with my sister, your mom, we used to go to city council dispensaries without putting down a coin. That we found doctors there and clinical assistants there, and they gave us treatment. We went into laboratories for medical tests. If and when they could not treat you sufficiently in Jericho Lumumba, they escalated you to Rhodes Hospital along Haile Selassie Avenue. If it did not work, then they sent you to Kenyatta National Hospital. And all that was free, without a coin. And, of course, President Jomo Kenyatta.
So where did we lose the plot, Dr. Barak?
We lost the plot when corruption started taking the center stage. Mm-hmm. And we now started looking for the World Bank to give us 13.6 billion shillings without a proper accountability forums and processes. And in a few years' time, this is going to be catching up with us. And it will be catching up with us when we have absolutely nothing to show of what we did with the funds. We can talk about the Eurobond a few years ago. Nobody knows what we did with that fund. We can talk about the sleaze that happened within the National Youth Service, that we get to a point where, and I agree with Mheshimiwa Nyamita, Mheshimiwa, you can see at least I have the humility to agree with you sometimes. Unlike you. I agree with Mheshimiwa Mark Nyamita that their leadership is a creation of the public out there, particularly their voting public. When you have a public whose consciousness is around receiving largesse from the political class, and is not bothered by being kept in that captivity and that poverty by this class, then they keep on returning the same bad fellows, and so the rot continues.
Okay. Yes, Honorable Mark. I'm sure you want to...
Thank you.
Yes.
Let me tell you,
yes,
we can all sit back and continue to say what we think should happen, what we know that happened before. We can all do that. But it makes a difference when we step up to actually do something to change our current situation as a nation. And I want to challenge my colleagues on this debate that for Kenya to get to where we want, or to where it was, as Barak says, we must make that first bold step. I also grew up in Nairobi at some point when garbage was being collected diligently by Nairobi City Council. In fact, when they put in a no dumping sign in a particular area, no Kenyan would dare put.
Dump it there.
When you had your water disconnected, you would simply walk into City Hall. When you pay, by the time you get home by matatu, in fact, there were no matatus that time. There was Kenya Bus.
you'll find the water running.
You'll find the water running. And everything was actually, quite working very well. The railway system was okay. There was no, nowadays I see a lot of school transport, yellow buses all over.
Private schools.
That time you just needed a bus pass. So you pay for a bus pass as a student, and you just hop onto a bus in the morning. It delivers you to school. Ayub, I just came from the UK yesterday, actually. And, we are a colony of the UK. And you can imagine how well the railway system is actually working, both underground and above ground in the UK. How the public system, it's exactly what was actually left here when our colonialists actually left.
Yes.
They left a bit of system, semblance of systems that what you see in the UK is to a lower whatever what was actually being established here. And then what did we decide to do? We said, no, we do not want public transport. We don't want government in business. So public transport was privatized, and then the Matatu madness all came together. We said we didn't want the county to continue to collect effectively. There were private garbage collectors that came in, and it's a big mess. Housing, population has continued to grow without an equivalent investment in that particular housing. Nairobi River, in those days, was a place you would go and stand by the river. World over, riverfronts, especially in capitals, are actually the most expensive places even to stay by. In fact, in many places when you go and you get even a hotel room that is facing the river, even if you just have a glimpse, you'll find that the pricing is a bit higher. But here, our riverfront that is actually within Nairobi, we are also a very unique capital. We have the national park within here. We have a river within, and a naturally flowing river, not artificial rivers that have been created in other places to bring aesthetics. Became a dumping site. This particular government has made efforts. I was seeing just yesterday during Mazingira Day, the efforts that are actually being done, every single regime from Kibaki's. Kibaki said, we want to clean the Nairobi River. Uhuru said, we are going to do Nairobi River. The president did not only say, but is actually doing it. If you've seen the transformation that is actually now happening along the Nairobi River and cleaning it, it takes a bold leader to make that first step for us to progress. Housing, as my good brother, professor here is talking about, slums have been strewn all over town. The first affordable housing program that has actually been started is by this regime, and houses are coming up. We saw people in Mukuru actually beginning to own houses. So all I'm saying is that for us as a political class, it takes a bold step at each of all of us. Now, I wanted to respond to something that Mbui said.
Yes, briefly.
And he speaks about his leader, known for integrity. That's okay. And, and Javas now says that there is no skeleton in Kalonzo Musyoka's closet because Kalonzo himself is a skeleton. But then they say, show me your friends, and I tell you who you are. So look at the company, and I said it here on the last show when we were here with Mbui. Look at the company that Kalonzo Musyoka is actually keeping.
So who is the bad element in that company?
I'm not saying, we can go through them.
Yeah, okay.
We can go through them.
So we can tick.
Kalonzo Musyoka is right in the middle.
Yeah.
On his right is Rigathi Gachagua,
okay,
a man who believes that this country revolves, happens only around his own region.
Okay.
In fact, he says one thing in the morning, you're not sure what he's going to say in the afternoon. Okay. Think about what he said about Uhuru during the election. He called him all the names. He apologized later on.
Yeah.
And he said, we were very wrong. In fact, Uhuru is now our leader. When Uhuru went and had a Jubilee meeting, he's now disagreed with him. Okay. I can tell you even between Kalonzo Musyoka, now, that is one. Rigathi on one side. The person who only believes that the people from his region, and there's nothing. And he only rotates around there. Yeah. Nothing else. Okay. The next person is Martha Karua. Okay. Martha Karua, other than being bold and being known to have walked out of a meeting that Moi was presiding over and stealing and elections and swearing in.
Being there running.
Yeah, and being there running.
And of course, and swearing in swearing in Moi Kibaki at night. What else is there? Matiang'i, who is also in the United Opposition, in the last regime, when we were finding bodies in Rivayala, the person who was presiding over that particular ministry,
okay.
his ministry is Matiang'i.
Okay.
So when my good friend says that, and I continue to maintain that Kalonzo may be a good man in the wrong company, okay. And when he says that the president is reaching out to people, this particular week, I think possibly, is it beginning today, Mbui? Over the next 2 weeks, there's a lot of hype around the Ukambani. In fact, I want to challenge Mbui and the leaders of Ukambani that if indeed they believe that the president is not doing anything and the things that they think that their region is not getting, the president is going to be in Ukambani. Can they show up? Yeah.
Okay.
No. Before that, the president is actually, in fact, we are feeling that the president is giving too much to Ukambani, because he is going to be there launching project after project over the next 2 weeks.
Okay, hang on. I need to go to him. So you agree with me that the people of Ukambani are entitled to those projects because it's by right, not by privilege, isn't it?
The thing is this, the president is going to demonstrate to the Ukambani people that their leaders are lying to them, that they are actually out there, that they're not getting their rightful share. And it's actually going to be seen over this next few weeks. So
it shouldn't be painted as politics or privilege. It's a right that the people of Ukambani...
Absolutely, it is a right. And that's what the president is trying to build. And sooner than later, I think I want to tell the president that whatever he does, please, President William Ruto, please lift Kalonzo Musyoka out of the wrong company and bring him to
we have no skill to deliberate. Honorable Mbui, I'll come to you. But Honorable Mark Nyamita, so you talked about the bad company that Kalonzo Musyoka keeps, isn't it? Isn't it, Honorable Mark Nyamita?
Yes.
So you talked about bad company. So let's again go through that list. Today you are a vocal cheerleader alongside other ODM lieutenants of the president.
I'm not a cheerleader.
Okay.
I'm not a cheerleader. That's not the correct description.
Supporter of the president.
I'm a strong supporter of progress demonstrated by the president.
And the president. Okay,
yes.
Fine. The president kept Rigathi Gachagua as his deputy president for 2 years. He's not a bad person.
He persevered. And he has said it. The president himself has said it.
So can we then hold the same standard as you held, the president?
What I'm saying, the president himself has actually come on a national platform and said that the 2 years he had Rigathi Gachagua as his deputy were possibly the worst 2 years in his political life.
Okay.
And we are saying, beyond what the president has said, every single Kenyan who knows who Rigathi Gachagua is and the kind of toxic leader that he is, therefore, when my good brother and I sympathize with Kalonzo Musyoka, and I am still praying, like I've said, President William Ruto, please lift Kalonzo Musyoka. Is in the wrong company.
You have that is semantic evasion.
Yeah.
So let's talk to about Fred Matiang'i.
Yes.
This is a man who, in the previous government, under the handshake your party leader has supported. For Mother Karua, she was the running mate of your party leader in the last election.
What did you say about Matiang'i?
He was serving in a government that you supported under the handshake, is it?
No. He was serving, but doesn't take away the wrong credentials.
Why didn't then your party leader and you as a parliamentarian plus the ODM party in parliament raise the substantial questions on why people were killed and their bodies dumped in Rivayala?
They were raised. We did raise in the last parliament. We did raise.
Okay.
Yes.
And you have a problem, Mother Karua now working with Kalonzo, but there was no problem when she worked with your party leader.
You see, I am not condemning, even including Rigathi Gachagua, because I'm no saint myself. I am not condemning them to completely. I am only saying the fact that we've worked with them. I'm just, my good brother here said that they're trying to fashion themselves as a opposition, that they're political saints led by the priest who is Kalonzo Musyoka.
Yeah.
And I am saying he is leading a wrong team. He is within a wrong team. And I have said it also on this show before, Ayub, that there is no saint, including even in the media house, even yourself. All of us, we are not perfect, what I'm saying. But we are just trying to say that this country, for us to progress, we need the boldness. We need the boldness that we see in the current president.
Yes, Honorable Mbui.
To take this country to the next level. To face the cartels that are actually in this nation. It's not a walk in the park.
Ayub, thank you. I think I like the way that you're holding us to account for what we say, because that's really important. And when panelists generate into insults, then the argument is lost. Because I've listened to Javas here, and my friend Mark Nyamita, and the kind of words they're using, those are not words I would use to describe anyone. I mean, Javas here called my leaders evil spirits. I mean, he talked about the night of doom. He called my party leader a poodle. Mark Nyamita said he's keeping toxic company. And finally, he's actually referred to my party leader as a skeleton. I'm surprised that, this person that you're defining so negatively has supported your party leader in 2013, 2017, 2022, and then he was okay and he was keeping good company. But now you're saying...
did an interview of your party leader.
Yes, and he's being told he doesn't know how to choose good company.
I said he's a good man in the wrong company.
But might that mean that he was making bad choices in 2013, 2017, and 2022? But then maybe if to know the man, you may need to go online now, and the next 2 weeks he's going to be in the UK. He's going to be giving a speech at the Chatham House, so you listen to it. He's going to be giving a lecture on the Kenya we want at the Oxford University. He's also going to be, to give a keynote address at the London Political Summit and Awards function in the UK Parliament. So basically, then you can get to know the kind of person that you're calling a skeleton and a poodle and an evil spirit. But then let me just say that in defense of the Kenya Kwanza policies, my friends here, they see no evil, they hear no evil. I mean, I've heard they've talked about cleaning of Nairobi River like it's a very first time. You remember when Michuki was, minister for the environment? He cleaned up Nairobi River. It's not something that's been done for the first time. We've been told about electricity connectivity. It happened during Uhuru's regime. But I can tell you there's almost nothing done in my constituency for the last 3 years under this leadership. So when you point out that things are happening in a better way, they are telling us the success of Shah, where the president and his minister themselves are complaining. You're in defense of appointments of William Ruto. And you know that, at the beginning, there is one of the ministers had been accused of murder. I mean, the kind of things that are here, it's unfortunate. But then let me say that, if we proceed in that manner, then they'll be telling us even education capitation has been given in full, and that we have success in the university funding model. Not to forget that William Samoei Ruto himself is a beneficiary of that system where education was actually free at the university level. So I think the two colleagues of mine here are the real choir masters of this regime. and I think we need to start getting a little bit more honest and stop belittling other leaders so that we can be able to make progress.
Thank you. Let's sample the feedback, and I give the last word to Javas and his uncle, Dr. Barack Muluka.
Yeah, I think so.
The feedback. MC_Ruma says, I don't see any difference between the government and the opposition. They all want to acquire or maintain power in order to loot and plunder our taxpayers' money. All this talk about unity is about politicians regrouping to it, nothing much.
It's true.
Engineer Lazaro says the newly veiled Nyota Fund could be political theatrics with an aim of cooling down rising temperatures of the Gen Z. President Ruto is a student of Moi School of Professional Scheming and graduated in Raila's Political Bureau. Frank Orinda says you can't claim to be fighting corruption while halting corruption cases that were already at advanced stages. The current regime has perfected the art of doublespeak, preaching integrity by day and protecting impunity at night. Sawe says we idolize Singapore's glow-up from 1965, swam to a global hub built on zero tolerance for corruption, elite education and an ironclad rule of law. Kenya is still mired in graft scandals, tribal vote rigging and crumbling roads. Admire, fine, become it, demand real reforms. MC says again, the latest political alignment is all about self-preservation, not beneficial to ordinary Kenyans. Somebody should tell President Ruto that he won't transform Kenya into a first world country while corruption is the order of the day in his government. Frank says Kenya can't compare to Singapore, not with leaders driven by greed, deceit and power games instead of vision and service. Nations rise on integrity, discipline and foresight, not empty rhetoric and self-preservation. Yes, Javas.
Well, Ayub, we are a nation that has a government, not the other way around. And that is why it's important for us when chance is there for us to have a regime in place, support our government and push our leaders to deliver on the commitments they made. Now, I did not use derogatory terms on opposition leaders. We deployed heavy imagery, and that's why I'll still maintain that the collection of the opposition is just a bland simulacrum of leaders that are inept and without ideas that can compete with the ideas that are being implemented by the president. Okay. Because what is wrong with setting up a multi-agency team to fight corruption when each team is executing its own mandate? Dr. Barak Muluka here and all the leaders here live in palatial homes. Their livestock eat better than most Kenyans. What is the problem when Kenyans have got to afford also housing?
Thank you.
And that's why we're saying that it is important for us to support policies that work because Kenya is moving forward.
Yes, Dr. Barak.
As you can see, Kenyans cannot be inveigled. You cannot lie to them. You can do all the circumlocution that you want, my nephew. And you can use all the grandiloquence that your uncles have given you as your heritage. But you cannot lie to Kenyans. You have seen the feedback. They are very clear that if we want to move forward, the first thing we are going to do is to stop deodorizing theft. Call thieves by their names, call inefficiency by its name, call negative ethnicity by its name, and all these optics, this showmanship that President William Ruto is engaging in.
Okay.
It's not going to take him anywhere. Kenyans have said it's one term because we have got to change the DNA of this country. And as Raila Odinga used to say in his better days, the River Nile has already left the Lake Victoria. It's flowing towards the delta in the Mediterranean Sea. And thank you, Kenyans, for being broad-minded and open-eyed.
Many thanks. Dr. Barak Muluka, asante for your time. And to your...
My nephew.
Bigambo, your nephew. Asante sana. Honorable Robert Mbui, many thanks. Honorable Mark Nyamita, asante. Thanks for
Thank you.
As well as thanks to you two for waking up with Daybreak here on the broadcast. Your company always appreciated. Up next is Social Hour and Safin Achieng Ouma in the company of QT, who is an ardent Manchester United fan but appears to be improving of late in the flashy, always titled The Red Devils in Old Trafford in the city of Manchester. They will be coming up shortly, also in the company of another beautiful lady and a gentleman, to talk about some social issues. And I'll see you tomorrow here at the same time on Daybreak. Till then, good morning.